I would be embarrassed if I had a job. I was 16 years old when I walked into my dad's insurance office. I was in high school and I stopped in after practice one late afternoon, and I walked into my dad's office to tell him about a couple of the job prospects I had, part-time jobs after school, after sports. And some of my friends were working at Subway, some of them were working at Wendy's restaurants, some of them were working in the big box stores, the grocery stores, even some of the local factories part-time. And I had my resume in to all these different businesses, and I was commenting to my dad about where I would prefer to work, how it would fit into my school and sports schedule, and all these different things. And my dad unassumingly, casually, just looked up from his paperwork on his desk and he said, "I'd be embarrassed if I had a job." I would be embarrassed if I had a job. Think about how many teenagers, young men, young women hear something like that from their mom or from their dad. Almost nobody, 99%, would never hear those words spoken. And what made them so powerful was the fact that they were off the cuff. It was every fiber, every piece of DNA, everything in his body and mind and soul, just off the cuff saying, "I would be embarrassed if I had a job." And it was a game changer for me because I was being raised as an entrepreneur at the time. I had run a tennis camp, a small hockey school. My dad had noticed that I had the dreamer's disease when I was 12 years old, when I started having yard sales at the end of our driveway, selling my mom's cookware and pots and pans on a Saturday morning without her permission. My mom would scream and my dad would laugh. Anything and everything to make $1. So I already knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to run my own show. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be like my grandfather who ran a general store. I wanted to be like my other grandfather, my dad's adopted father, who ran a store as well. I wanted to run my own show. I wanted time freedom. I wanted money freedom. I wanted to be my own boss. But these words from my dad when I was 16 years old really hammered that home. When just off the cuff, he looked up and said, "I would be embarrassed if I had a job." So it's interesting, those words in a way were a challenge, a challenge to diverge, to head the exact opposite way of 99% of my friends, to head in the opposite direction, to take the road less traveled than 99% of teenagers and young people my age. So really, it was almost like, good morning, a mental kick in the pants. And to prove that point, I walked out of my dad's office that day and I started up a couple months later my window washing company. I was 16 years old. I should have been working at McDonald's. I should have been working at Subway. But instead, my dad came home one night and we were having dinner at the kitchen table, always 6 o'clock sharp, everybody at the kitchen table, no ifs, ands, or buts. And he said to me, "Drop by the office tomorrow." He says, "I have an idea for you." An idea meaning some something entrepreneurship. So I dropped by the office the next day after school. I was in grade 11 at the time. And he goes, there's this guy that washes windows in our community, in our town. He does it for a living. And he said he washes our windows here at the insurance agency. I pay him $5 or $10 a week every week. And he said, he mentioned it to me the other day that he wants to sell the company. Just a tiny, tiny little company. It's a bucket, some squeegees, some towels, like there's really nothing except the client list. So my dad looks at me and he says, would you be interested in taking that over? And I was like, okay, I don't have any money to buy it. He said, don't worry about that. He said, I can buy it and you can pay me back. He says, it's only going to be a few $100s. And because anybody can start that business, right? It's a pail, it's some squeegees, it's some rags, it's some vinegar, and it's some water. And so to make a short story long, my dad gives this guy a few $100s, which of course I had to pay back. There's never any deals with my dad, ever. We deserve what we earn, and we pay for what we get, always. So here I am with this window washing company, and I have about 25 clients where every week I walk into the storefront and I wash their windows outside. And it was back in the carbon days where I write on this little pad, window washing, February 26, $5, and I tear it off and I give them the physical copy, and then I have the carbon copy underneath, one of those pads. I remember I used to buy them. So I had 25 customers. So 25 customers times average $5, and you can do the math. So I really enjoyed this business because it gave me time freedom and it gave me a little bit of financial freedom at that age. But I was like my dad, I was never satisfied with business as usual. I've always been a business unusual kind of guy. So 25 clients was not enough for me. I went on a belly to belly, eye to eye, toe to toe selling spree. And it was just me at the time. It was me with my pail, my water, my vinegar. And in the winter, I used antifreeze in the water because it was minus 20 degrees Celsius, minus 10 degrees Celsius. And here I am out on the coldest days in Canadian winter. And I'm out there every single Monday washing windows. I never, ever, ever missed. And people used to always comment to me, they're like, how the hell do you wash windows when it's minus 25? And I was like, my secret weapon is antifreeze in the water and the vinegar. All you need is water and vinegar to clean glass. But I would put antifreeze in, so here I am out washing the windows in a snowstorm. Man, that got me so much respect from people that were older than me. They said, man, that kid, he's relentless. And they'd say things to my dad like, I saw your son out washing windows today in the storm. And he's like, yep. That's one of the things that he's commented about. He'd like to hear positive feedback from people. When you're an entrepreneur, people respect your hard work. You're criticized for a lot of what you do. The media and the politicians and the bureaucrats try to frame you as the evil rich, the top 1%, when most business people that I work with are not rich, they're not wealthy, they're not independent, they're hardworking, they're honest, they're relentless, and they drive the economy. They're the heroes of our country. They're the heroes. You're the heroes of our society. If you guys take a 6-week nap, everything falls apart. There's no houses, or there's no housing, there's no schools, there's no hospital care, there's no roads, there's no bridges, there's no t-ball baseball parks, there's none of it. You're the hero in the story, as the small business owner. If the small business owner, you're the person who creates jobs, pays taxes, donates to the Rotary Club, donates to the shelter, the food bank, you're the hero in the story. Never forget that. So I went on a sales bender, and basically I just walked into every single business on the 2 main streets in our community. Community is 6,000 people. Maybe there's, 120 businesses in total. So I just started walking into every single business in the dead of winter, and I would say, would you like your windows to be sparkling clean? I'd ask for the owner. They're all mom and pop shops that I was dealing with, so the owner's behind the counter. But I would ask that open-ended question, and this taught me scripting. This taught me to perfect my sales script, where I used what worked best, and I was always tweaking it. And then I'd never freelance it. I'd use their name, and then I'd go in and I'd say, would you like your windows to be sparkling clean to start the new year? That's what I'd say in December. Would you like your windows sparkling clean for Christmas? Would you like your windows sparkling clean for Thanksgiving? Would you like your windows sparkling clean, whatever? And of course, what are they going to say? They're going to say, how much? And I would say, well, I usually charge $20 for these windows, but if you sign up today, I can do it weekly for $10. $10 a week, 52 weeks. $10 a week, 52 weeks. So they're like, okay, I'm saving $10. That's a $520 account in 5 minutes. 52 weeks times 10. I wasn't selling one and done ever. I never did one and done. They asked me how much. I would always say $20 a week. I'll give you 10%, 10 off. And then of course, I want continuity, right? I want continuity. I want cash flow. If you don't have continuity in your business, you don't really have a business. You're always worried about paying employees. You're always worried about paying taxes. You're always worried about cash flow. So when you have continuity, so that's how I did it. These were weekly contracts. So I'd say $5 times 52 weeks, $10 times 52 weeks, even $20 for the biggest ones for 52 weeks. And they can't compare, right? They can't really go apples to apples. It's apples to oranges because it's a year-long contract. And then when they would say yes to that, I would give them the Columbo close, the upsell, where I would say, I'd be walking away to do the windows and I'd say, just one more thing. And I would turn and say, I have a special on today for the inside windows of your store. If you would like me to do the insides of your windows, you have to have the insides done, right? I said, I can do them I usually do them also for $20. I can do those for $5 a week. So for inside and out, instead of $10 a week, I can do the whole thing, the whole enchilada, the whole shebang for $15 a week, 52 weeks. And they're like, wow, that's incredible, $15 a week. So as you can see, I just used a bump or an upsell, whichever you want to call it. Boom, $5. How many people took the bump, the upsell? I would say over 50%. Online, 30% is a win, but offline, toe to toe, I'm selling myself short there. 75% of them said yes. And why wouldn't you, right? So I turned $10, a $10 one-time sale, into $10 times 52 weeks. And then, as an upsell or a bump, I turned $10 into $15 times 20 or 52 weeks. And it's cash flow. I'm getting paid every single week. And I can wash those windows in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. What are my expenses? My expenses are my time, which I had lots of, vinegar, water, squeegees, a pail, some antifreeze. So minimal expenses. So as you can see, I went to every door and gave them the offer, then the upsell. And it was amazing because I was closing 95% of the stores. And I would say, yeah, I just signed up your neighbor. I just signed up your neighbor here. And nobody wants their windows to be dirty, right? Well, my neighbor has sparkling clean. So that's, I call that the association close, where everybody's doing it, right? Like, the bottom line is, we are hardwired for herd behavior. You and me are hardwired for herd behavior. That's why it's so difficult, what I teach, to head the other way, to do the exact opposite. Good morning, of everything you see. So that's why it's so hard to go. Like, it takes that top 1%er. You're going against history. You're going against biology. We all are hardwired for herd behavior. So I used herd behavior, and you should in your business, where that's what testimonials do, right? They see other dentists, or they see other retail store owners, or they see other insurance agents, and they're like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that girl. They saved money, or that you're their agent, or you deal with them. I better. They're doing it. I better do it. You think Steve Jobs didn't use the power of herd behavior? Everybody's going to have one of these iPhones. If you don't have one of these iPhones, you're going to be different. You're going to be an outcast. You're going to be an outlier. You don't want that. Same with all technology. If you're not on Facebook, you're a outlier. You're a loser. If you're not watching hours of TikTok videos, man, you're not. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. You know, if you don't have 17 websites, man, you're out of touch. So anyways, using herd behavior is very, very powerful. I used it with my window washing company. I just signed up your buddy Joe. I'm doing his windows inside and out. I can give you the same discount, and away I'd go. So I went from 25 clients to over 65. I remember, because I'd go back in the cafeteria after I washed all these windows. I'd do it all in one day and one afternoon, and skip school, of course. I was a proud C&D student. C&D in high school, C&D in university. I had other things to do. I had the dreamer's disease. I had hockey to coach. I had windows to wash. I had money to make. And admittedly, my dad and mom were like, you know what? They never pushed it. My sister was a Ontario scholar, one of the greatest students you could imagine, like a Marc-Andre level student, best of the best, pick any college to go to in the country. My brother was a hardworking, good student. Yeah, now he owns his own law firm. But yours, Relentless, was a disaster in the classroom. I would be sitting there working on signage on my biology book for my window washing company. I would be drawing out hockey drills if I was in a class at university. I was everywhere but in school. And it was all about entrepreneurship. What's the dream? So I built that company up to 65, and I'd go back in the cafeteria after a few hours of work, and here I would have a literal pile of 5s, 10s, and $20 bills. Every place was $5, $10, $20. This is going back into the 1980s. That was a lot of cash. Of course, you're not paying any tax on it or anything like that. So then I said, I want to free up my time. I don't want to, I don't want to be the doer of the thing. I knew that right away. My dad wasn't the doer of the thing. And I didn't want to be the doer of the thing. I wanted to be the salesman and the marketer of the thing. So what I did is I hired two of my friends two of my friends who were eager to work, right? They're like, Michael, I'm working at the grocery store, or I'm working at, Wendy's or Taco Bell. Can you get me in on this? And I'd say, look it. And I'd only have one of them at a time. And I'd say, look it, okay. So I'll give you $25 cash, okay, to wash the windows every week. I'll do the sales. I'll do the money. I'm the rainmaker. I'll make it rain and collect the money. You need to do the window washing. And then I'd train them. Both my friends were amazing athletes and good workers. They were happy to get the opportunity, and $25 cash was a lot. Back then, minimum wage was like $5, right? So that's like getting paid $5 when they're only working a couple hours, maybe 3 hours. So, and I'd always give them a little bit more, but nonetheless, I never touched a squeegee again. I would literally walk into all 65 places. I would hand them I would scratch out the $10 or the $5 or the $20. I'd tear it off and hand it to the owner, smile and tell them I'll see them next week. Place looks great, Pete. Place looks great. Confirming it. And then, I'd do extra stuff like wipe the door handles on the main door. I might clean the counter, take 2 minutes and clean his counter where the lottery tickets are, whatever, just something extra. Always eye contact, always see you next week, all that kind of stuff. And my buddy who was working for me, he would do the inside of the windows and the outside of the windows. We averaged, I used to put a stopwatch on some of them, and we'd average like 4 minutes, 6 minutes, never stopped. We're like the FedEx guy. You ever see those guys? The Pure Later guy? They can't talk, man. Those guys are on the clock. My buddy runs a courier business, private courier business at home, and man, that guy never ever stops from 6 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, and he challenges himself. He's an entrepreneur, and he's a former athlete at a high level. So I said, make it a game, because he was like, oh, Michael, it's mundane and boring, and it's hard work at my age. I'm like, make it a game. I said, see how many packages you can do. See if you can beat your employees. See if you can set a company record. So this guy, I remember we were sitting there a few years ago having a beer on a Friday, and he said to me, he goes, 351. And I was like, what do you mean, 351? He goes, that's the new company record. He goes, I took your advice. He goes, I gamified my job. And he goes, I never shut the truck off from 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. He goes to whatever, 4 p.m. He goes, a couple days ago, he said, I did 351 packages. Just boom, 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 boom. And he never stops. He has his lunch in the truck. He drinks water all day. And he's just go, 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 go. The door on the van never shuts, right? And he just pulls right up on the sidewalk. He doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. Like, he just pulls into the handicap zone, gets out, hands him the box, and then he just pulls in somebody's driveway, knocks the fire hydrant over. Just my type of guy. Bull in a china shop. And he's like, 351, coach. And it's so funny because 2-3 years later, he's still trying to beat his personal best. He's like, this is my record for Sunday. This is my record for Monday. This is my record at Christmas. This is my record for December. Just amazing. What's measured gets done, right? I said, cleaners compete against themselves, Rob. I said, cleaners compete against themselves. Michael Jordan was never competing against the Pistons or the Jazz. He was competing against Michael Jordan. So I did the same in the window washing business. Speed, speed, speed. We weren't around to sit and talk or stand and talk. We were go, go, go. And then back to the cafeteria I go, and I'd have this big stack of cash, and I'd pay my guy. He's expecting 25 bucks. I'm always been a generous tipper. My dad and mom taught me that. I'm like, here's 25 bucks. Boom, you did a good job. There's 35. And that goes such a long way with waitresses and waiters and bartenders and anybody and everybody that does an outstanding job. So I ran that business for 2 years before I gave it to my younger brother. There's nothing to sell, right? In those days, it's just something. I'm heading away to university. I was heading away to the tennis academy. I needed somebody to take it over, so I gave it to my younger brother, and he ran it for a few years. But talk about freedom, independence, control, personal sovereignty. But it all started with that off-the-cuff comment from my dad. That would be too harsh for most, poodle parents now. Oh, you shouldn't talk to children like that. My dad's like, fuck that. He's like, I was abandoned the first month of my life. My mom and dad didn't even want me. Then I was adopted into a family where my brothers and sisters were already 15 years older than me. My mom and dad were dirt poor, and he did everything in his life himself. He had no role models. All he had was a roof over his head, and he had been involved in 14 different businesses. And then he works to 85, which is 3 years ago, he retired at age 85. 65 years as an entrepreneur. 65 years without a job. 65 years without a job. And as my dad says, 65 years of running my own show. And so when a man like that turns to you and says, I'd be embarrassed if I had a job, man, that hit home for me. And that's why Krista and I are raising an entrepreneur. Our daughter Emery's 10 years old, and everything's about, honey, do you want two things? If you want time freedom, she's like, yeah, I want time freedom. I said, do you want financial safe harbor position? Yeah, I want to be wealthy. I want the freedom that money brings. I said, you can't accomplish that unless you're an entrepreneur. So I'm raising an entrepreneur. That's what her dog walking company is about out here. I'm out here walking the dogs. You think I need to be doing that for $5? It's not about that. It's about more is caught than taught. More is caught than taught. So I'm out here. She does the flyers. I make her do everything herself. She writes on the sidewalk with chalk. She sends out 100 flyers. 96 of them, nobody calls, but 4 do and become clients. I'm teaching her to embrace failure. I'm teaching her to fail fast. I'm teaching her that there's winning and learning. There is no losing. A 4% response is like killer. Most of my direct mail, most of my magazine ads, most of my flyers and postcards and online and offline, if I get a 1% response, I'm cheering. If I get a 2%, I'm celebrating. So, Emery learned that 4% is actually, good morning, a home run, and that failure is part of life. Disappointment is part of life. I used to, the window washing company, for those 65 people that I signed up, 50% or 15%, like I told you, told me to go to hell. They're like, no. I go in the Chinese restaurant, no. We wash our own windows. I'm like, okay. I walk in this others, no. So that's what a teenager needs to hear in business. That rejection is part of the process of winning. No means not now. And no means you're on the right track. So I'm teaching my kid to fail fast, to fail forward. 96% of those flyers that we dropped off, that's a lot of work, have failed for now. But 4% of them got her 4 clients. And she has $100 American in her bank now at home because of it. And I'm like, man, 4%'s a winner. So now she realizes that. I'm like, when she wants to deliver more flyers or she comes home from school, I go, sweetheart, let's go out and fail some more. And she always giggles and laughs. And I'm like, let's deliver another 20. I said, we might get 1 phone call. We might not. And she's like, okay, let's head out and fail. And I go, fast. She's like, yeah, fail fast. And that's the mindset you have to have. Like, are you raising entrepreneurs? Are your kids, your teenagers, your adults You have a special gift, but only if you share it. Why is that not being shared with your adult children or your teenagers? Why aren't you having that conversation like my dad had? It was a game changer. He just off his cuff, every fiber of his body. He's like, a job? I'd be embarrassed if I had a job. And you know, he always said, job just over broke. Just over broke. He goes, I don't give a shit. My grandfather used to say, he goes, I don't give a shit if you're some big corporate guy making 500 grand a year. Or he says, I wouldn't trade that for my freedom. He goes, those guys trade their soul every day. And he goes, they're cowards and slaves and bootlickers. He goes, just because you're a corporate bootlicker, you're still a bootlicker. My grandfather ran his own show. My dad ran his own show. My other grandfather ran his own show. I run my own show. My kid's gonna run her own show. And you get these guys, well, I make good money. Well, what does that mean when you don't own anything? Do you have a big pay? When you're a corporate bootlicker, okay, you're a corporate bootlicker, you're making 200K or your kid's making 200K, and you're like, oh, he makes good money. The second you're gone, that money is gone as well. You don't have any continuity, you don't have any cash flow. And the big thing about that, good morning, about this bootlicking stuff when you work for somebody else, even if it's corporate, you have fuck all to sell at the end. When I busted my ass at McLean Insurance for 17 years, my big payday is when I cashed out. My big payday with my hockey team was when I cashed out. My big payday with the barbershop is when I cashed out. I didn't make any money at the barbershop until I cashed out. I built a client list and I cashed out. Same with anything I've been involved with, I cash out. But if you don't own it, if you don't run it, you don't have any freedom of time. You can't come and go as you please. And they own you. You work for the man. If you're a bootlicker, if you work for somebody or you're a corporate, I don't care if you're a lawyer, I don't care if you're a doctor, I don't care if you're a nurse. If you're gonna be involved in those things, run your own show. Run your own clinic. Have a business on the side. Have a side hustle. Have an online business. Something that gives you financial freedom and gives you time freedom. You know, we may work 80 hours a week, but like my dad and grandfather said, I can come and go whenever I want. I have freedom. At least I'm not a bootlicker. At least I'm not somebody's bitch. So you have one life to live. So why the hell not raise entrepreneurs? Why not raise entrepreneurs? And that's what my dad did with that little off-the-cuff comment. It was just part of raising a person who had dreamer's disease. I'd be embarrassed if I had a job. And I was just like, wow, if that's not 1% talk, I don't know what is. I mean, it just made me wise up. It made me wake up, and it made me look at that opportunity he brought me. And I mean, I just can't say enough about the power of something like that. Raise entrepreneurs. Do you not want your children and grandchildren to have financial safe harbor position? They can't have it. They can't have it if you work for somebody else. The data shows you run out of time. You work your life away. You give, a third of your life to a corporation or to a career that doesn't love you back. Well, that's her passion. She wants to do this or he wants to do that. Well, do it, but be the operator and owner of it. Be the founder. Start the clinic. If you want to be a vet, Emery wants to be a vet. So I'm looking at this already, right? She wants to work with animals. She loves art. Those are her two passions, art and animals. So I have her thinking, how can she do that on her own terms without becoming some starving, bitter artist or some vet that, puts in the clock 6 days a week? I don't want that for her. I don't want her to have a ceiling on her income. I want her to be able to work when she wants to work and raise her family and do what she wants to do. And secondly, I want her to have financial freedom. I'm not leaving her anything. I'm not going to cripple her with wealth. I'm not going to cripple her with money that she didn't earn. Are you kidding me? We're not going to do it. So she needs to build her own business. She needs to chase her own dreams. She needs to, she has to build her entrepreneurial world. And if not, she'll always be a slave and she'll always be poor. Making, I make $150,000. Are you kidding me? They fucking well own you. They own you Saturdays, Sundays, whatever. Like, are you kidding me? It's interesting. The two people that work for me, Mark Andre is my business partner. He wasn't happy after 4 years we worked together. But interesting, he's smart enough to say, you know what? If we're going to do this, coach, if we're going to do this brotherhood, this movement, I want in as an owner. I'm going to bleed for this business. I'm going to bleed for this company, but I want in as an owner. And I was like, smart. So I gave him exactly what he wanted. He's got skin in the game. And now someday down the road, when we sell this thing, when we decide to do something else, he's going to have equity. So even though he makes good money right now, that's not how you become wealthy. You become wealthy with cash flow and the equity of the big payday. So let's say we sell this business in 8 years. All of a sudden, boom, there's a big payday for him and his girlfriend. They might be married at the time. They might have a child, whatever they want to do. But the equity, he's not just punching a clock. He's not a corporate bootlicker. He's got skin in the game. He's got equity. He's building his wealth. Same with Leanne. One of the things that attracted me to hiring Leanne is the fact that she was a entrepreneur. She's the type of person who she's always run. She didn't even look at herself as an entrepreneur. Now, hopefully she does. But she runs her own cleaning business and commercial. She cleaned our agency, which was a mid-size office, and she cleaned my barber shop from time to time, and she cleaned our homes. And this is where I first saw her. Like she was an entrepreneur without even knowing it. She just looked at herself as a small business owner, but there's a difference, right? So she has to work really hard at those businesses, and they bring in decent money, but she's the queen. She's not some bootlicker. Like she puts in those hours, but that's secondary income because I pay her. She's not working for me for free. No matter how sparkling my personality is, she's decided not to work for me for free. So as my executive assistant, she's paid good money to tolerate yours relentless. She's the loop closer. I open loops, she closes loops. I open loops, she closes loops. I open loops, she closes loops. I have this great idea, she closes a loop. Oh, I have this awesome thing. That's what she does. She finishes the check. I come up with the idea. Mark and Leanne, they execute the idea. That's a great idea, Michael. Let's take care of it. That's a bad idea, Michael. Let's bury it, hit it with a shovel, bury it dead behind the woodshed. Never, ever speak of it again. One of two things, but both of them loop closers. I open loops, they close loops. So she has her job with me, which she works extremely hard at, but also she has her own company and she has a couple of employees. So she has two nice incomes and she loves to work, and it's a great example to her children because she's such an extreme hard worker. And instead of working for somebody else, yes, she does work for me, through this company. She works for Mark, but it's different because she's an entrepreneur. She also has her own gig. And by the way, being an entrepreneur is not for everyone. It's not for most. But you know what? It's something that every parent should introduce their child to. It should be introduced in school. Entrepreneurship should be in every grade school, the younger the better. They should be bringing in guys like Bill Gaw. They should be bringing in guys like David Linton. They should be bringing in guys like Jeff Dean. They should be bringing in guys like Rob Boyd. They should be bringing in guys like Stephen Ivanko, Paul Nolte, Willie Miranda. They should be bringing in the Billy Wagners, every teacher, every year to talk to these kids. Kids in grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. You know what? I should be invited every day to tell my window washing story. You think those kids, their minds are, do you not think that would crack open their kids' minds when they don't have parents who are, their parents are bootlickers, right? They're just punching a clock. They don't know about entrepreneurship. You bring in a Billy Wagner or a Billy Gaw, or you bring in somebody like that, and they talk about how entrepreneurship has transformed their life, how they have personal sovereignty because of it. They have time freedom and they have financial freedom, and they got it through entrepreneurship. You don't think that's a message that should be in the schools? It's at the youngest, like Warren Buffett said, the common denominator with outsized success in anything, they started early. The common denominator, Warren Buffett says, with outsized success in anything, whether it's saving money, wealth attraction, athletics, marketing, business, they start early. Kids need to know about entrepreneurship when they're 3, 4, 5, grades 1, 2, 3. Man, if that guy can do it, I can do it. If Leanne can start her own business, I can do what that lady does. I can do that, cracking open their minds, and then they think about it, and then they think about it more, and then they think about it more, and then they start reading books. That's what I do in my mentoring with the two guys that I'm mentoring now, a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old. I do it as part of my give back. I don't charge or anything like that, but I'm cracking open their minds. I'm showing them a different world. They don't have parents who are entrepreneurs. So what am I doing? I'm giving them books and making them do book reports. I'm giving them books. Read another book, watch this video. I'm cracking open their minds. They're like, Michael, I didn't know I could do this. This is what I did, sharing stories, window washing, hockey camps, tennis camps, lemonade stands. That's where it all starts. Raise entrepreneurs. If I had a job, I would be embarrassed if I had a job. What a blessing. I won the lottery with my mom, and I won the lottery with my dad. That doesn't mean they were easy at all. My mom is a ferocious leader. I get my attitude, I get my mindset, I get my personality from my mom. My mom is a ferocious, high level, high expectation, high standards person. The gift that my mom gave me, which I didn't always appreciate, is this: nothing is ever good enough. That's a hard-ass gift to give a kid. She gave it to my brother, and she gave it to me, and she gave it to my sister. My brother's an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. My sister is a very successful nurse at the Heart Institute. And what did my mom give us? She gave us nothing is good enough. She was, like, that's great. That's a good grade. That's a good victory at the rink. You're putting in good times. Oh, by the way, I expect more. And that's an incredible thing. Good morning. So that's one of the gifts, is that standards, that drive comes from my mom. It's not good enough. Nothing is good enough. Nothing is good enough. I sent out 25 thank you cards. Why didn't you send 50? Mom, I just grew the business. Dad and I just grew the business like 9%. Really? Probably a lot of people do that. That must have been easy. Mom, I got this opportunity to go to the tennis academy. I'm gonna have to leave home, but you have to be a top 50 player in the country, in the province, to get invited. She's, well, you'll have to work your way through it. You have to work your way up. Just incredible, a hard-ass gift. Nothing is good enough. So raising entrepreneurs, that's the number one goal. I want to give Emery the gift of time freedom, and I want to give her the gift of making her own safe harbor position. Being able to say, I want to retire when I'm 40, and then I want to take a mini retirement. I've mini retired 3 times in my life for a year. When I do what my dad did, when I sell a company, I take a year off. And then I get bored, of course, and I start reading books, and then I get back into something. But I'm like an NFL coach that gets fired or a college coach that gets fired. Just take a year off to rejuvenate, and then boom, back into it. Mini retirements. Can't do that if you're a corporate bootlicker. Can't do that if you work for somebody else. Can't do that if you punch a clock. Can't do that if you work for the man. Can't do that if you're broke. The other thing about entrepreneurship is I want my daughter to be able to sign her own check. You want to put a pool in your backyard? Okay, you send the bill to the herd. You want to build a new house? Send the bill to the herd. That's Dan Kennedy 101. You want to buy a new car? Write a new book. Write a newsletter. Run a mastermind. You want to move to Hawaii? Write a new book. Write a new mastermind. Write a newsletter. Send the bill to your list. That's Dan Kennedy 101. That is personal sovereignty. That's it for today. If you want more of this badass information, you can grab a copy of my new book below, How to Not Get Your Ass Kicked in Business and in Life. If you don't have a copy of my book, what are you doing? Can you not read? What's your problem? It's like $30. Get the book. You get a free t-shirt for now, nobullbook.com. Secondly, join my newsletter. It's a real newsletter. There's hardly any of them anymore. I send a 20-page, 22-page physical paper and ink newsletter to your home or office every month. What's in it? What I'm doing. Marketing, wealth, money, marriage, fitness, health, time management, stories. That's at badassletter.com. The link is below. And how in the world can you operate in today's world and not be part of a mastermind? I've been part of masterminds my whole business career. I don't know where I'd be without Bill Glazer's mastermind, Dan Kennedy's mastermind. I don't know where I'd be with, I conduct 2 masterminds, my world builders and my champions. I mean, it separates. I mean, I need to be around other elite men in this world. I have to be. Association is the most powerful force on earth. So I need to be around other elite husbands, fathers, entrepreneurs. I just have to be. I have to be joined at the hip. And it just pulls me in the right direction. It helps me go all in on being the best version of myself. If you want to apply for my World Builders, it's badassworldbuilders.com with an S. badassworldbuilders.com. Apply. I'll read your application. I'll let you know in a few days whether you're in or out. I have another couple spots available. It's 12 months. It's digital. It's virtual. It's online. No travel. No hotels. No restaurants. And you'll 5x your business. You'll 5x your personal life in the next 12 months. Guaranteed by just simply being joined at the hip with other champions. badassworldbuilders.com. That's it. Remember that quote, raise entrepreneurs. Raise entrepreneurs. Talk to your children about business. Talk to your grandchildren about business. Mentor young people. I'm mentoring a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old who knocked on my door. Mentor young people about freedom and about financial freedom and time freedom and how you find it through entrepreneurship. Not through some corporate gig, not through some job, not through giving your life to somebody else, but through entrepreneurship. It equals financial freedom. It equals time freedom. Raise entrepreneurs. I would be embarrassed if I had a job. Remember that quote. 2 words that changed my life. 2 words that'll change your life. Be relentless.